now 7 billion people living on our planet. Our numbers are rising every day. Humanity is on the brink of overload. Already, there are a few places on Earth that give us a glimpse of the future. Test cases for whether we'll be able to cope. These are the world's busiest. San Isidro, Southern California, the line where Mexico ends and the United States begins. The only place on Earth where the developing world shares a land border with the richest nation of all.
We have to be ready for anything.
It's one of the most dangerous places on the planet.
The majority of the other people are good traveling public. We're looking for that one.
125,000 people come through here every single day, more than any other border on Earth. 17 lanes of traffic heading north, 6 south. On one side, a few hundred officers to control the flood.
We're going to start to disassemble this car in a serious manner.
On the other, a tide of drugs, illegal aliens, even terror threats. This is San Isidro, the world's busiest border crossing. ...6 a.m. San Isidro, Southern California. It's rush hour at the busiest border crossing in the world. On the front line, Officer Smithson and Rex. They know there are drugs and illegal aliens coming through here. But with this many cars, they can't check them all.
We have thousands of vehicles that pass through here. We're looking at license plates, driver's demeanor. The more vehicles you can get around, your chances increase.
Smithson's just one of over 200 officers working the borderline. They're fighting a constant battle against the drug cartels. San Isidro is one of the most notorious smuggling routes into America. Rex smells trouble. Searching the car means shutting down this lane of traffic and extending the wait time for thousands of travelers. But he needs to follow up Rex's lead. He moves in. At this time of the morning, most of the people affected are on their way to work. The last thing they need is another delay.
It's supposed to be an hour or less, man.
It took 2 hours and 45 minutes.
I get up at 3 in the morning to get in here, man. It's horrible.
Despite the smell of drugs, they don't find anything in the car.
Well, they're trained on the odor of narcotics, not the substance. The guy just bought the vehicle 6 weeks ago. The odor of narcotics could be in it from the previous owner, could be masking agents. But once he got to it and he got to go around it a couple times, he was satisfied there was nothing there.
Smithson gets the driver on his way as quickly as possible. He and Rex need to be back on patrol to move on to the next car. The drug cartels use the huge volume of traffic as cover for smuggling. They often use decoys as a distraction. That doesn't mean the real shipments always get through, though. Smithson and Rex have already sent one suspect vehicle for further inspection this morning.
The vehicle just passed into the United States, and he alerted and responded to the gas tank from underneath. I tapped the tank, and tank tapped solid. He would just kept on diving underneath it. We tried on the passenger side to see if he fit.
The suspect vehicle is being examined by Smithson's colleagues in an area called secondary inspection. Secondary allows officers the time to work on the vehicle without holding up the traffic on the line. Officers Jones and Wright home in on the car's fuel tank.
This should not be this solid. It's a plastic tank, but still shouldn't be that solid. So you got something pressing up against it. I don't think it's gasoline.
In the holding pen, the driver waits anxiously. Wright's pretty sure the fuel tank is loaded with drugs. But for now, he can't get in there to find out what.
Most
of the time it's marijuana, but more and more we're getting hard narcotics, cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine.
Until they actually find drugs in the car, the search has to keep it intact, so it can be returned. Removing a fuel tank in one piece is tricky, so if they want to see inside, they will have to wait for a mechanic. 6:30 a.m. The busiest moment at the world's busiest border crossing. Rush hour traffic is hitting its peak. 8,000 cars stretch 2 miles deep into the Mexican border town of Tijuana. San Isidro port of entry is made up of 4 key sections. 6 southbound lanes into Mexico, 17 northbound lanes into America, and 2 covered pedestrian lanes on either side. It's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's always busy. 125,000 people a day, over 40 million a year. San Isidro is being pushed to breaking point. The only solution is to start again. The brand new state-of-the-art Gateway to America is under construction. They've had to close 7 of the 24 northbound lanes, actually reducing capacity. Until it's finished, the building work is just ramping up the pressure. Wait times are getting longer, and patience is running out.
We're over here in Tijuana. We've been in line for an hour and 16 minutes.
You have to be ready to wait.
And if we don't get pulled over in secondary, we're going to be there another hour.
San Isidro Port of Entry is a massive building site. What makes it unique is that it has 125,000 members of the public traveling right through the middle of it every day. The construction work also means the officers on the line have to be doubly vigilant.
Well, the smugglers see this as an opportunity. For years, they've always tested our weaknesses. They'll probe our weaknesses, and they'll try to get through us, or they'll try to get merchandise, narcotics through us, and then we'll take that weakness away. We'll straighten that point, and they'll always be probing the port of entry.
Back at secondary, the mechanic has arrived to take off the gas tank.
Generally, they want to get as much across as they can. That's their paycheck, so if it's in the gas tank, it could very well be in the tires, it could very well be inside the dash. So it's my job to make sure that cars have been
It's the moment of truth for Officer Wright and his partner, Officer Jones. If the tank is empty, their morning's been wasted. But it doesn't take Jones long to find what he's looking for.
It looks like we got a gas tank that's completely full of narcotics right now.
Even now, they have to confirm what they've actually found before they can get on with searching the car thoroughly and destructively. Jones' field kit means they can do the job right here. At the world's busiest border, it's all about turnover. A positive test means the driver can be handed over to the San Diego PD, freeing up space for the next bust.
Initially we want it to turn purple, and then it'll turn purple, and there'll be a little bit of separation as there is right there. This is a positive test for marijuana.
The officers no longer need to worry about the condition of the vehicle. They can really go to work. From this one car, they find a massive 400 pounds of marijuana.
Generally speaking, the more weight that there is, the more time that they're going to serve in jail.
It's the first bust of the day, but with 10,000 arrests made every year, it won't be the last at the world's busiest border crossing. The morning rush shows no signs of abating. Of the 1 million people that will enter the United States today, 1 in 8 of them will do so right here. And the port is about to come under even more pressure. 7:33 a.m. Over by the southbound pedestrian bridge, construction workers are preparing for a critical and potentially dangerous operation.
What we're doing in back of us, we closed the pedestrian bridge because we're moving this 100-foot light post on the other side of the bridge.
Two-time port director Oscar Preciado has been brought out of retirement to run this massive project.
One lane that's right next to us, the vehicle traffic, as they lift us up, we'll have to close that lane too. So that's going to impede our operation.
On a normal site, this kind of work would be done out of hours. At San Isidro, there's no such thing. All they can do is try to turn the relentless flow of traffic to their advantage.
We chose this time of the day to move this pole because a lot of the pedestrians that are coming across are actually going north. Most of the people will use this bridge in the afternoon to go back to Mexico.
Now, when we do pick this pole up, everybody who's not in this has got to be the height of the pole away.
The construction team have been given 2 hours to complete their task. They must be finished by 9 a.m. to limit the impact on the traffic. They're all feeling the pressure, because late last year, everyone's worst nightmare became a reality.
Only about half the lanes at the world's busiest border crossing between San Diego and Tijuana, Mexico, are open this morning. That's because a scaffolding collapsed yesterday onto 8 northbound lanes. That collapse is under investigation this morning.
Jay Royce was on his regular commute from Tijuana to San Diego. At the very moment, San Isidro Port of Entry finally reached breaking point.
It's 10 o'clock in the morning. I come to the booth where they check your card. I go through, and it's kind of busy. As I stop, I hear this noise, and then all hell broke loose, and this came down on top of my car. And it was boards and 2x4s and plywood, and it smushed everybody that was next to me.
Jay was one of the lucky ones. He escaped serious injury.
17 personas heridos. 3 de ellos los llevamos al hospital. Los demás los estamos tratando aquí en la garita.
The collapse of the scaffolding created havoc. It brought traffic to a standstill. The port shut down for the first time since the assassination of JFK in 1963. The border hit gridlock. Construction work to reduce wait times at San Isidro had done exactly the opposite. This morning, moving the floodlight is proving much tougher than they thought. The clock is ticking.
Cables are getting hung up in the deadlock. Right. Okay, so what we're going to do is once we start getting up, we can keep rotating that light. Well, except for the head's not going to twist. What would you guys like me to do? Well, we're at an impasse here.
They need to get the pedestrian bridge reopened, but for now, the lighting pole isn't going anywhere. Out in primary inspection, current port director Frank Jaramillo needs to anticipate problems before they happen. He's in charge of everyone and everything that comes through here today. A job that became even more difficult in the aftermath of the 9/11 terrorist attacks. On top of stopping drug dealers and illegal immigrants, now he has to prevent weapons of mass destruction entering the United States. It takes some neat technology to do it without slowing things up.
Right here is what we have. It's some of the technology that assists us in making decisions. This here is a radiation portal monitor, and what we're trying to do is screen vehicles for radiation to determine if they could be carrying a weapon of mass destruction or they are smuggling in a radioactive source.
The monitors are in front of the 17 primary inspection booths. As well as protecting America, they keep the border officers safe from a dirty bomb. But when it comes to drug dealers, Frank wants to take the fight even closer to the line itself, to pre-primary, where they're not expecting it.
We have have the anti-terrorism contraband enforcement people. They're a specialized group who are very aggressive and highly trained in identifying narcotics. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to identify the smugglers, kind of take them out of their element. They're used to getting the primary, but they're not used to us coming to them.
Even with all this careful planning, just one person can bring the whole system to a standstill.
No.
Over in the pedestrian zone, there's a bomb scare. An American woman has made a threat that could force officers to shut the entire port and would leave 125,000 people looking for another way into America.
Sorry. I was just wondering,
While her threat sounds unlikely, officers have called in the San Diego Police Department.
Okay, what kind of medication do you take?
Oh,
Long list?
all kinds of shit.
What do you take?
All kinds of stuff.
Right now, we have a possible schizophrenic. First of all, she says she's going to hurt herself. That right there is enough for us to be concerned. And then she says she's going to blow up the port and everybody in Mexico. So that's another concern. We wouldn't want anybody to do that.
The woman is quickly removed from the port and taken to a San Diego police station where she will be assessed further. And they've kept the border open.
I don't know how they do it. I couldn't do a job like this. I don't deal with all the people.
Yeah, after a long wait, we make it to America.
Over in Secondary, Officer Wright has finished clearing up the big marijuana bust from earlier in the morning. He's outside the head house, where detained drivers are processed. The officers who police the line at San Isidro know danger is always just beneath the surface. Here, it nearly turned fatal.
It's March 22nd, 2007. I'm working overtime on the swing shift.
The gentleman is right here in the middle. There's an armed police officer on this side, one on this side. I'm on this side of the counter. I walk back to the security office.
This is the CCTV footage from that night.
I hand it to the officer. Within 10, 15 seconds, I feel a searing pain in my chest.
The detained man lurched over the counter and stabbed Officer Wright.
I look underneath the shirt. I wasn't wearing a vest. And I see blood. And soon thereafter, I'm told I passed out and was kind of convulsing, turning some odd colors. They get me on the ground, open up my airway, and I wide awake and realize I've been stabbed.
I later saw the knife, and it was just a simple 6-inch serrated steak knife. My right lung collapsed. I had a chest tube for 3 days. I was in the hospital for 5.5 days. They had to drive my wife to the hospital. She was falling apart. My wife didn't want to bring the girls because she didn't know what from the day of injury to going back to full duty, it was only 32 days. I'm back 100%, went from 0 to 100% back.
Every officer knows that with so many people traveling through the port, anything could go wrong. At San Isidro, wrong can be deadly. 9 a.m. Out on the line, Officers Castro and Ongisoko are on patrol. A green Chevy 4x4 rolls into view. The officers approach. Officer Ongisoko taps the vehicle's spare tire with his buster, a density gauge that will quickly tell him whether to stop the car or let it through. Castro quickly backs up his partner. He approaches with caution. He knows this is no time to take risks.
Spare tires loading.
You're not under arrest, you understand that, right? Put your hands behind your back. Okay, do you have your wallet with you?
You got your wallet? Okay, we're gonna get it out, all right? I want you to step out of the vehicle. You're not under arrest, right? You understand that? We're just detaining you for inspection of your vehicle, all right? All right, let's go this way, sir. Can you get the wallet for me? You got his ID?
Castro and his partner have cleared the first hurdle safely. The traveler is in custody.
We have a seaport operator in the vehicle on X-ray.
Now they can get on with the task of checking if the vehicle really is loaded with drugs. But there are other problems on the line today. (9:11 a.m.) Over by the pedestrian bridge, the construction deadline has passed and the floodlight hasn't moved an inch. The bridge, due to be closed for 2 hours, has now been shut for more than 3.
Still waiting for the pole to be moved. We were advised by the construction company they're having problems with the cables. Then they're afraid that when they lift it, that the pole will twist them. So we're waiting for them to come up with a solution.
Okay, we're gonna choke it right there. Yeah, get the bottom choke. And then shackle into it. Once we get it hooked up, we can run that light on some more, right? Yeah. Okay.
But the delay has created a bigger problem for the construction team. During morning rush hour, most of the port's traffic is heading north. But after lunch, that traffic begins to return south to Mexico. The bridge they've closed is about to be 25,000 people's only way home. Over in secondary, Castro is getting stuck into one of the 4x4's tires.
I think it's marijuana. Because I smell very organic smell coming out of the tire. Oh yeah. Yeah, we got marijuana here.
It's a huge haul. Over 115 pounds of marijuana was found in the spare wheel and the gas tank of the car. Castro and Ongisoko are delighted, but the 32-year-old man driving the car is facing several years behind bars.
An exact dollar amount, probably going to be at least in the 600,000 range. 600,000? Yes, U.S. dollars.
(11:07 a.m.) Over by the bridge, more than 3 hours after the deadline, the pole is secure and the massive crane is finally ready to lift the floodlight. Oscar informs the port officials. The road is closed. The whole construction site takes a deep breath. Just as the pole is positioned into place, it hits a snag. One of the bolts doesn't fit into one of the holes. And after spending tens of thousands of dollars on the specialist crane team, it all comes down to a big man with a big hammer. The floodlight is secure. Traffic starts to flow. And just after lunch, with the bridge reopened, the rush back into Mexico begins.
Key to this whole port is keep it running while we're building it. It's like trying to change a flat tire on a moving car.
But just because one crisis has been solved, there's no let-up in pressure here at the world's busiest border crossing. It just moves to the other side of the road. (4 p.m.) The busiest border crossing in the world. Most of these people are heading back to their homes in Mexico after a day spent in the neighboring city of San Diego. But even though the rush hour is headed south, it's still taking 4 times longer to get into the U.S. than it is to get into Mexico.
We inherited a 90 to 120-minute wait, so we're going to try to get additional resources, get our wait time down to less than an hour. That's our goal right now.
Heightened security measures ratchet up the pressure on the border. For people traveling north across the 3 miles that separate Tijuana and San Diego, it's become a fact of life. The cost of safety is paid in queuing time. Traveling south, it's a very different experience.
Aquí el ingreso no tarda más de 30 minutos cuando hay la fila.
Port official Lorente Guillermo runs the line on the Mexican side of the border.
Nuestra misión es administrar el flujo enorme que existe aquí, dándoles facilidad al turismo, pero a su vez estar pendientes de que no se introduzcan mercancías ilegales, principalmente armas, dinero o droga.
While Guillermo's mission is the same as that of his American counterparts, the flow of drugs north is vastly greater. The U.S. border can't afford the old, relaxed attitude.
Antes 40 minutos de cola a Estados Unidos era decir que había fila. Y hoy hacer 4 horas, pues uno lo entiende porque no deberían de ser las 4 horas.
On the American side, they have a very different attitude. Security has to come first, and it's not long before a demonstration of why. Lighter security on the Mexican side may mean commuters won't be waiting as long to get home as they did to get into the US earlier today. But it also creates an opportunity for those who want to enter America illegally. The side of the road with fewer guards is just too tempting for some desperate immigrants to ignore. The alert reaches the control room. A man has just run past the Mexican guards into America. In San Isidro, the officers call these people port runners. This all-or-nothing dash into the US is an old trick. In the past, hundreds of port runners would rush the guards in the hope that at least some would make it through. But for officers, it's one of the most dangerous scenarios they can face.
We go through a lot of training with our officers on how to defend themselves, how to take somebody down. They have not only, of course, a weapon, but they have mace, they have a baton. So there's a lot of ways the officers can defend themselves against these people, and a lot of them are hostile.
In the watch commander's office, Officer Roselli had just started her shift when the alarm was raised.
Working at this port, we have to be ready for anything. At 16:38, we received our first radio call from one of our officers that was manning our U-turn lane that he visually saw a port runner. A single male was running up the freeway northbound into the southbound lanes. That's a vulnerability that we have, and so we need to be able to react.
6 officers bring the man into custody, but he's just 100 yards from the Mexican line. They know if he breaks free and runs across the border, there's nothing the U.S. officers can do.
Somebody does get away, which is very, very infrequent. We can contact the Mexican authorities and they will attempt to apprehend the individual. They may not return him, but they may give us the information so that at least we have some intelligence on that individual.
But this time, the port runner is secure.
We'll bring him into custody, we'll run checks on him, we'll see if he has any priors, then we'll determine what kind of course of action we'll take.
The port runner was just a few yards from the Mexican line. It was in the very same spot that Officer Al Morales was caught up in a desperate attempt to cross the border the other way.
It is 11 o'clock in the morning, and we receive an alert that there's a hot pursuit.
It started early in the morning in Los Angeles when a robbery suspect fled police. For 2 hours, mile after mile, he kept pushing south at speeds reaching 90 miles per hour. When he finally reached the border, he was forced to stop because of traffic waiting to cross into Mexico. The car was surrounded by some 20 police officers with guns drawn.
But it was now that San Isidro officer Morales stepped in.
I
get to the car and I see a gentleman and a baby in the back seat. He grabs the baby, digs in his pocket and pulls a knife.
The suspect's name was Eddie Price. The baby was his 1-year-old son.
As I'm talking to him, he's pleading to let him go to Mexico. And I tell him, well, if you give me the baby, I'll tell him to let you go. I tried to get him and he pulls him away. And then I told him, hey, the deal is off because you're going to run away with him. And he says, no, I'm gonna give to you when I get to the borderline. So I tell him it's okay. I want the baby and I want to put him to safety. As we walk to the limit line, he throws the baby. I caught him and turn around and give it to another supervisor.
It was reported that Price had lost custody of his child and was trying to get him out of America.
We did our job. Nobody's shot, nobody's hurt. This baby's safe. Mission accomplished. It is just another story in San Isidro. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen here.
Even here, the kidnap was an extraordinary event. But the hunt for drugs is everyday reality. 6:16 p.m. On the US side of the border, it's business as usual in secondary inspection. The team are determined to seize all the contraband they can lay their hands on, especially port legend, Officer Baumsteiger.
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to start to disassemble this car in a serious manner. Once we've discovered we have narcotics, the vehicle is ours.
Oh, yes, right there.
Determination is rewarded with Class A methamphetamine. Now Baumsteiger and his partner can reduce this car to spare parts. A few feet away, this time it's a stash of over-the-counter medication. Much cheaper in Mexico than the US.
What we have here is a commercial quantity of medication. I mean, it's a common thing that happens here in San Isidro.
Thousands of tradesmen cross the border to work in the US every day. Disguising contraband in amongst the tools is a well-known tactic.
We call it the magic blanket. And on top of that, they just scattered a lot of these loose tools. Hey, McGinnis, did we get everything in here? Are we good?
Pretty good.
All right.
They always keep us busy. It's a never-ending process over here. San Isidro is the largest port of entry here into San Diego. It's incredible.
Last year, over 150,000 kilos of illegal drugs were seized on their way to San Diego. They make an average of 300 arrests a day. At 7:55 p.m. The sun sinks on the US-Mexican border. The queue ebbs and flows, but never disappears. The lanes into America have been so busy for so long that an entire industry has sprung up on the line.
Beautiful and cheap. Beautiful and real cheap, amigos.
Esto es una artesanía mexicana. Esto usualmente, ¿sabes qué? Muchas de las personas que pasan ahorita es mexicano.
Another night begins at the busiest border crossing in the world. With the constant flood of arrivals, the officers of San Isidro never know what emergency is going to need them next. In the pedestrian line, a woman is spotted, clearly in distress. Ex-US Navy nurse Officer Rivera responds. The woman is 6 months pregnant. She thinks she may be having contractions, but that's not the worst of her problems.
I'm just so nervous. I'm so nervous. And you know what he told me, officer? What makes me more nervous is because I have a son, a 13-year-old, and he told me if you go to the cops, I'm gonna do something to your kid. Well, that's why we're gonna call 911. So you don't get the baby on that, okay?
It's all part of Officer Rivera's job at the busiest border crossing in the world. He's trained to help and move on. Even the casualties come thick and fast at San Isidro.
We see all kinds of different situations here, anywhere from
That typical one, assault and batteries, injury, accidents, even shootings in Mexico. So it's pretty typical. It's a very busy port as far as medical care, too.
The pregnant woman is taken to a hospital in San Diego for treatment. The border crossing street address is 720 East Santa Boulevard, San Isidro. It's the address that makes the most 911 calls in the whole United States. In secondary, it's taken Baumsteiger more than 2 hours to complete the meth bust, but finally, he's satisfied with the results.
Okay, we just finished searching the vehicle with methamphetamine in it. The areas that we searched are very disruptive to the actual vehicle itself, as you will see here shortly. Not too much of it left that hasn't been looked at. Air filters, again, the doors, seats, floors. As you see, we go through it very extensively. I've been doing it for 25 years, and I've got over 1,000 seizures. So they say, oh, that thing's been Baumsteigerized.
1 a.m. The port is still busy, but the torrent here is easing. In the depths of the night, a new battle line is drawn. Either side of San Isidro Port, the border itself stretches away to the Pacific Ocean in the west and the mountains in the east. In the dark, those who can't cross the legal way try their luck out here, border runners. To take on this very different challenge, Border Patrol changed tactics. On the ground, officers patrol the dark scrubland. Their crucial weapon is eyes in the sky. The helicopter teams of the U.S. Air and Marine.
Ground traffic, Omaha 90 Alpha, helicopter lifting from the north ramp.
Tonight, it's Agent Morgan LeVake looking down on the border. Call sign, Omaha. It's 1:15 a.m. and the chopper is barely up into the sky over San Isidro when a call comes in. Border Patrol need urgent backup.
No, we're trying to see if they need help on this IV-2 stuff. They're closing in on something.
Never a quiet moment at the world's busiest border crossing. (1:38 a.m.) The world's busiest border crossing, and for once, everything appears calm. But beyond the 12-foot-high razor-wired walls of the port, it's peak time for people smugglers. East of San Isidro, a team of Border Patrol agents are on the trail of a group of illegal immigrants. They've called in a U.S. Air and Marine helicopter to back them up. Morgan LeVake and his co-pilot are on their way.
Scope operator saw a group of 5 aliens. I think 3 agents are out on foot now. One of the agents has a K9. I'm going to put down the scanner.
The area is in total darkness, and the helicopter team have to rely on an infrared imaging system called FLIR.
Basically, we're just focusing out and setting up the FLIR system to reset the brightness and contrast so that it's usable depending on the temperatures of the surface.
Border Patrol agents on the ground are wearing night vision goggles, but the rutted terrain means they are often working blind.
Here, nobody's busting or moving, so they might be on the other side of this line over to my west here, I'm not sure.
The agent on the ground doesn't know which way the border runners have gone.
When the aircraft gets there, they nearly always will lay up or try to hide, knowing that.
But with the help of the infrared system, the chopper pilots can lock on to the fugitive's heat signature. It doesn't take long for them to get results. They direct the agent and his dog to the man's hiding place.
Hey, noise. I think you got a body off your right-hand side, directly uphill from you. Oh, yeah, there we go. Oh, sweet, we got him. Cannon was walking straight towards him. He's walking on the way now. He's on him. Okay. Lights on him now there, 259. Directly off your right, yeah, you're going straight towards them there, 259. They should be in that bush right in
have their men, and the chopper's work here is done. But just because it's the dead of night doesn't mean the officers manning the port can relax. 3:13 a.m. Back on the ground in Primary, the arrests just keep coming.
What am I arrested for, officer?
The traveler plays innocent, but Officer Clement Bernules knew there was something wrong the moment he saw his identity papers.
As soon as you see it, you're like, well, what's going on here? If you just hold it in your hand, it feels wrong. It doesn't feel right. And you look at it a little closer, and you'll see on the edges that it's been trimmed. But the edges, you can see, they're real rough all the way around. Just everything's wrong about it. The way it feels in your hand, the fonts, the colors, and then when you just move it around.
Crime identified. The man is handed over to the police. That's the only way the border post can cope.
We get involved, and then we move on. And then we get involved in something else, and we move on to the next one. We're kind of busy.
500 feet above the port, the air and marine chopper responds to the next alert. Border agents are chasing a man who has broken through the fence east of San Isidro. Agents drive towards a small river where they think the man may be hiding.
The RVS, this guy north or south of the river? Last side was south. I don't think he made it north. Okay, and we've got him on this floor. Are you locked on? Yeah. Excellent spot. Excellent.
They have their man, but now they need to get the agent on the ground to him.
Like two on the south side. If you keep going about maybe 30 to 40 yards, then you'll run into him.
He is only feet away, but he still can't see the man lying in the grass.
Yeah, he's at your feet there to your right. We're now, agents are now apprehending the guy. All right.
There were over 4,000 arrests out here last year. Not just illegal aliens, but smugglers of all kinds. But as the night ends, it's at the port itself that the relentless pressure starts to build. 6 a.m., San Isidro. Rush hour begins again at the busiest border crossing in the world. Today, like every day, 125,000 people will cross this border. And the duel between customs and smugglers will play out again. The officers on the line are ready and waiting.
What a mission to have, to say that you are a protector of the border, a protector of the country. We don't let our guard down. I don't care what day it is, Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, we're out here doing the job to the best of our ability, and the backbone of the operation are the frontline officers.
The majority of the people are good traveling public. We're looking for that one.
The team can expect another day of vigilance at San Isidro, California. The world's busiest border crossing.